Yeah. I actually feel sorry for people who interview really well and
Hmm.
end up in jobs they don't like. I know
Absolutely.
it sounds like a really strange thing to say, but you know that there's a certain type of person that just interviews so well, they always get
Hmm.
the job, or they always appear to get the job, and they often end up in positions they don't like, and then they end up just
Absolutely.
moving on.
Exactly.
So,
That the your personality type, while important, rarely signifies whether or not you're going to be successful at a role. There are
mm,
certain superstars who will seem like they are appropriate for every job, but when it comes down to the actual skills and traits necessary to perform those roles, there's generally a huge mismatch. And because of how those traits that make someone a good interviewer are emphasized, it really discriminates against the neurodivergent community or those from marginalized communities or those who communicate just in a different way than what the expectation of an all-star employee might be.
mm. Because that's it, because
Um,
that really works against the company and the individual. You know,
Absolutely.
it being a good interviewee, you know, it works against, both ways. You know, you get a bad hire on the one end, and the other end you get a dissatisfied employee. And,
Absolutely.
it doesn't work out for anybody.
Exactly.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on now.
So again,
So,
this is more of a basic math one, but it has to do with your ability to process visual spacing, and what approaches you take. So for example, in this one, we have the numbers up here and we have these
mhm,
appliances, and we essentially need to fill the columns out to equal the amount of electricity necessary for them. So my previous approach to this, my first run through was just to keep putting them in, follow it one at a time, complete one side, and then move on to the other. And now this
mhm,
really was not a good way of doing it, though eventually I got to the solution. On my second, third, fourth playthrough, I realized that the best approach is to take the largest numbers and place them first and then work from there because it allows for the process of elimination to figure out what the accurate answers are. And while for some individuals this might seem really straightforward, others might say it's more complicated. And so
mhm,
we'll learn things from both of those. So the individual who completes this puzzle on the first try, great spatial awareness. They can think on their feet. The individual who takes 15 attempts the first time and 10 approaches the second time, we see someone who's dedicated to growth, someone who's able to think of new solutions and improve upon their past performance. Again,
wow,
both of those are good results. It just
yeah,
depends on what the role, what the employer is looking for. And as you
yeah,
pointed out, none of that has to do with how you interview.
yeah. That's really impressive, really, because I know just like from going through interviews, you just learn the right thing to say. You give them the
Exactly.
answer they need, then
Mm-hmm.
they can get the job done by employing somebody and we can all move on. But then
Exactly.
a few months later, you're looking for another job. That's
Mm-hmm.
it, because it's not the right place for you,
Yeah.
so
And every interviewer will ask someone, give me an example of being a self starter, or are you a self starter? And everyone can come up with at least one example of a
mm,
time that they were a self starter. It doesn't present an accurate picture. But when we measure how does someone approach a problem, do they look for advice? Do they dive in and get it wrong 100 times but keep trying? That's actual information on how that individual interacts with problems and a far better predictor of their success in a specific role.
hmm. And would every time you come to these puzzles, are they,
Mm-hmm.
randomized? Are
Yes.
they? Oh, okay. It changed. It already changed that time, didn't it? So
Exactly. So all of the
every time
puzzles
you
in the
do it,
game
yeah.
are yeah, so all of the puzzles in the game are randomized for two reasons. One, it just makes it more interesting. So the player can kind of go through every time they want and keep doing the puzzles. The second is for us to get new, better results. Instead of having this person run through the exact same situation every time, they'll know the puzzles are in the same place, but the puzzles themselves will be of varying difficulty, different answers, all along those lines. So we can measure not just how the person's skills measure up against their past performance, but how do they deal with unexpected problems? How
Okay.
flexible are they?